energy is always responding to us. So how you are showing up to the divine mirror of life is what is being reflected back to you. And that is why we don't manifest what we want, we manifest who we are. Hello gorgeous souls, and welcome back to another one of my YouTube videos. Thank you so much for joining me for another one of my videos today. So today I want to dive into the famous saying of you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. And I want to dive into this with you and really get to the bottom of it with you to help you understand why I do believe this statement to be true and how we can actually use this to powerfully manifest into our life and actually supercharge the process. So if you're new here to my channel, then welcome. My name is Emma. I'm an award-winning life coach, 3 times best-selling manifestation author, law of attraction YouTuber here on my channel, and I'm the host of the #1 spirituality podcast on iTunes, Aligned Abundance. And here on my channel, I cover all things law of attraction, manifestation, spirituality, and self-help. So not only do I really hope you're going to enjoy this video, but the abundance of videos here on my channel over the last 10 years. So you may have heard of this famous saying before, and I remember when I first heard it years ago, I was like, what do you mean we don't attract what we want? Of course we attract what we want. Otherwise, why would we set those intentions? If I want something, surely then I'm going to manifest it, right? And it really took years of going along this process myself, unraveling the inner work journey, and really deepening my understanding of manifestation to understand exactly what this quote meant. So let's break it down. When we want something, we are also putting out a vibration of it's not here yet. So if you want something, yes, you desire it. Yes, you have an intention of wanting to manifest that into your life, of course. But you're also saying, I don't have that yet. I want that. It's almost like this energy of like, well, if you want something, you don't quite have it here and now. Now, obviously, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging what our wants and desires are. But what this quote really does is take it to the energetics of manifestation, which is so important and is something that I talk about in my new book, Aligned Abundance, throughout the whole book, is identity work. So when the saying says, you attract who you are, what that means is your core values, your identity, your beliefs all create your consistent, persistent vibration. So we don't manifest those fleeting thoughts. You know, we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Not all of them manifest. We do not live in a world of instantaneous manifestation. Thank God. But what does manifest into our reality is our consistent, persistent vibration, our identities, our beliefs, and our habits. So with this, we are always attracting who we are. So the universe is responding to your vibration. The universe is responding to who you are, which includes your identities. So in my new book, Aligned Abundance, I actually talk about identity work throughout because of how important this is in the energetics of manifestation and vibration and who we are showing up as. So I just want you to reflect back on your manifestations over the years and things if you've been manifesting for a while that you've manifested into your life. And I want you to think about, did you have to become a certain person to manifest your desire? Were there identity up leveling and shifts that happened when your manifestation came into your life? Maybe you did some inner work. Maybe you addressed some limiting beliefs and fears. Maybe you let go of a past identity or a past season of your life to welcome in that manifestation. And all of this is identity work, and identities do serve a purpose. A lot of the time in identity work, I see, lots of incredible people saying, you shouldn't have identities. The goal is to release every identity and not operate from identities. But I do think whilst that's true, there's also room to have positive identities that we can step into and really embody to create the reality that we want to create in our life. So an example of a positive identity could be someone who's really good with their finances. Another positive identity could be mother, for example, if you were wanting to have a child, or father, and terms like that. So there are positive identities that can actually really help us to step into the reality and experiences that we want to experience. Maybe that identity is confident, maybe that identity is freedom or something like that. So I feel there are really positive identities we can step into, but an example of a negative identity which could be holding you back, I want to share one that I experienced myself along my healing journey. So I'd done so much of the inner work, I'd addressed so many limiting beliefs and fears, shadow work, inner child world work so much. But no matter how much inner work I did, I still felt trapped by the inner work. I still felt in that place in my life. I wasn't really feeling like I was stepping into this new healed season, so to speak, and kind of stepping away from all of that work into the healing, into the reality that I wanted to experience. And the reason for that was because I was still operating from an identity of trauma. So I'd experienced trauma throughout my whole entire life from a very early age in childhood. So the identity that I'd carried for nearly up to 30 years of my life was trauma. So when that was one of the only identities you'd known your whole entire life, you can imagine how difficult that was to let that go, to dismantle that, and to even realize that that was the identity that I was operating from. So you can see it was almost like that conflicting energy of if I was trying to manifest, the things I was trying to manifest at that time, but I was still operating from that identity of trauma. I was still kind of like one foot in the past, one foot in the present, trying to create a different outcome. So for me, releasing that trauma identity changed so much for me because it allowed me to embody the healing work I'd done, experience the outer shifts in my life from that internal work I'd done. And it really allowed me to step into my 30s especially, which became, a different identity in itself as I released my identities and expectations of my 20s. It really allowed me to choose what I wanted to step into in my 30s. I was moving out of that trauma identity, moving out of my 20s into a brand new decade, into a brand new era and season. And I was able to then choose the identities that I wanted to step into instead of feeling chained or kind of like that I had to be in that trauma identity because of my experiences. So you can see there that there are some negative identities that can absolutely impact our ability to manifest, impact our ability to experience the healing that we've done, and they almost keep us stuck in that past-like state. But even negative identities are there to keep us safe. My trauma identity was that identity for so many years of my life. It was keeping me safe. It was, it was like, well, I knew who I was, that was my identity, but it was not who I wanted to be. And it's not the version of myself that I came here to experience, right? My higher self did not come here to, stay in that identity. And like I said, I do think that positive identities can also help us to step into the reality and the embodiment of the things that we do want to experience in our life as well. And I think what's important to remember here is there's no right or wrong with identities. Some people may look at an identity and think that that's negative, and another person may look at it and think, I like that. I want to be in that identity. So it's not about stripping everything away. It's not about not having any of these things. It's just looking at your attachment to those identities and seeing whether it has a negative or a positive neutral influence on your life. And you are your best guru for that. You are the best person to identify whether that identity is restricting you or actually amplifying you. So now you know a little bit about identities. I want to take that quote, the original quote, the whole title of this video, a little bit deeper into who are you? So if we don't manifest what we want, you manifest who you are. Who are you? And a great exercise I'd really recommend doing. There's tons in the book. There's exercises, releasing meditations, and obviously like releasing the identity work in here and choosing and embodying new positive identities too to help with this manifestation work. But to get you started today, I really want you to write down a list of your core values. So the values that you stand by in life, whether that's kindness, whether that's being generous, for example. Like there are so many different core values, and you can Google all the different core values and get some inspiration for that. But I really want you to sit down and think about what your core values are, your personality traits, your superpowers, the beliefs that you hold as well, and also align decisions that you make. So all of these shape our identity as a whole. And again, we do have an identity, and I think there's positives in knowing who you are and knowing what you stand for and knowing what your core values are, because that all helps you to get clear on your manifestations, who you are and who you're showing up as and who you're aligning with as well. And if there's anything on your list that you maybe identify that doesn't feel too good, or you're like, I'm actually ready to release that, then you can obviously affirm that you are releasing that, use the tools in Aligned Abundance to help you with that energetic and physical release as well. But don't forget, there could be limiting beliefs or fears in that identity that is stopping you from releasing it or continuing that pattern and cycle. So it's really important to acknowledge that as well and look at whether that is playing out. And to take this deeper into the manifestation work, in step 4 of my 5-step manifesting process, let go, we step into embodiment. This is where the alignment and embodiment work happens. And embodiment is becoming. You're no longer faking it until you make it. You're no longer, acting as if. You are the walking, breathing embodiment of that vibration, of that version of you who has your desire, which magnetizes that abundance into your life in step 5 of receive. So this is where that quote really comes into play, of the version of yourself who has that desire. Who are they? What are their identities? What are their core beliefs and values and the aligned decisions that they make? What are their personality traits and their superpowers? And just really look at those 2 lists and align yourself with, am I this person right now? Where do I need to up-level my identities? Where do I maybe need to release a negative or limiting identity? And how can I use identity work to actually step into the version of myself who has this desire? So that version of yourself who has your desire, what do they wear? Who do they hang out with? How are they feeling on a daily basis? What is their daily routine and schedule? What does that look like? And what habits, rituals, routines do they do week in, week out, day in, day out? So really look at who that version of yourself is. And that's where that embodiment work starts, by embodying and becoming that version of yourself. And that is done through, obviously, inner work if there's anything stopping you and things you need to release. That's done through identity work, which is in the book, and also through habits in terms of how you're showing up, the things that you're doing to again create the physical embodiment of that cognitive work and that spiritual work. So I do believe that you don't attract what you want because sometimes we don't know what is for our highest good. Now, when we are manifesting, it's important that we say this or something better for the highest good of all, because ultimately, if something is not for our highest good, the universe will divinely protect us and bring bigger and better. So this is why in manifestation, we have to be open to all possibilities, this or something better. So if we always manifested what we wanted, we'd always be manifesting from the level of trauma and from the level of consciousness and awareness that we have at that time. So I look back over the years and I'm like, thank God I didn't manifest everything I wanted, because ultimately, I grew, I evolved when I knew my worth, when I stepped up into my healing journey. I obviously, my wants and desires shifted as well, which is a natural evolution and so normal along this process. And it also really got me looking at who I am, who I'm showing up as, and the energetic embodiment of, if I wanted to publish that book, or I wanted to feel a certain way, or I wanted to have that certain manifestation, was I showing up as the energetic embodiment of being an author or being a speaker or being a loving partner in a relationship? So there's so many ways that identity work can actually really help us in powerful releases and powerfully aligning with those identities that our higher self wants us to embody, to help elevate us to that next season and cycle of our life. And remember, energy is always responding to us. So how you are showing up to the divine mirror of life is what is being reflected back to you. And that is why we don't manifest what we want, we manifest who we are, because the universe is reading our frequency, reading our energy, reading how we show up. It's almost like imagining like our words don't exist. You could say, I want to manifest this, but actually the universe is reading your energy of saying, but do you actually want that? Because maybe there's some fear underneath. Maybe your nervous system feels dysregulated with manifesting that amount of money, for example. So you could openly on the outside say, I want to manifest that money, but on the inside, your beliefs, your identities, your energy could feel very different. And the universe is saying, well, actually, your energy is telling me that having that amount of money could actually be scary to your nervous system, dysregulate you, and maybe not be what you want because you've had that experience before where it didn't work out. So that's why we do the inner work. That's why we do this energetic alignment and embodiment work to become the version of ourselves that knows it's safe to hold our desire. Our nervous system feels regulated to hold that desire, and our beliefs, energy and identities match and align with that reality too. But thank you so much, gorgeous souls, for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it has really helped you to dive deeper into identity work more and why we attract who we are, not what we want. It's such a great saying, but like I said, it took me a while to actually really understand it on a deeper level. So I hope that my musings and thoughts have really helped you with that. And don't forget as well, Aligned Abundance is out now. So if you want to dive into this identity work, I have a whole chapter on this, including a powerful meditation inside the book to help you release those negative limiting identities and choose those positive ones too. But thank you so much, gorgeous souls, for watching. I appreciate all your views and likes. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, because I would love to see you again soon. Don't forget to leave me a comment in the comments down below, because I reply to them all. And don't forget, you can also join my free Law of Attraction support group over on Facebook, where you can join myself and other like-minded souls, where we talk all things Law of Attraction and spirituality. I hope you have an incredible week, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you all in my next video, which will be next week. Lots of love.